3 years ago, very few would have placed a bet on Nico Hulkenberg returning to the Formula One grid full-time. Even fewer would have predicted that he'd not only be back, but thriving, bringing points and consistency to a struggling team, and once again reminding us of the immense skill set that's kept him relevant for over a decade. At the end of 2019, his F1 career seemed to quietly wind down after Renault decided to go in a different direction. It felt like the end of the road. A veteran with solid performances and plenty of experience, but with the one haunting stat that followed him around like a shadow: 179 race starts without a single podium. That stat kept growing, and when he found himself out of the seat, it felt like that might be how the story ends. But in Formula One, stories don't always follow expected scripts. Hulkenberg's occasional stand-in appearances for Racing Point during the pandemic years in 2020 and again in 2022 were more than just temporary gigs. They were reminders to the paddock, to team principals, and even to fans who might have moved on, that this was a driver who never really lost his edge. In those limited runs, he scored points, put the car where it didn't belong, and handled the pressure of jumping in cold with professionalism and poise. Still, a full-time return looked unlikely. There was always someone younger, someone with more sponsorship backing, someone from a junior academy system ready to be slotted in. But then came Haas, in need of experience and stability. Haas took a gamble ahead of 2023, and that gamble came in the form of Nico Hulkenberg. And just like that, his second chapter in F1 began. This wasn't the usual comeback tale, fueled by nostalgia or marketing appeal. It was about unfinished business. Hulkenberg didn't return to coast. He came back hungry, determined, and more importantly, with a fresh outlook. That time away from the sport, forced as it was, gave him clarity. It reignited the spark. It gave him the opportunity to rediscover what racing truly meant to him. Not just the competition, but the lifestyle, the travel, the grind, and the satisfaction of working with engineers to find those crucial tenths of a second. His return to the grid in 2023 was met with curiosity and skepticism. Would he still be sharp enough? Could he bring points in a car not known for its race day performance? And while the Haas VF23 struggled with tire degradation and lacked consistent pace over a race distance, Hulkenberg delivered where he could. His qualifying performances stood out, clinical, precise, and sometimes even spectacular. On Saturdays, he could still wring the neck of a difficult car and put it places it didn't belong. He may not have had the machinery to capitalize on Sundays, but the paddock took notice. Fast forward to 2024, and Hulkenberg finds himself at Sauber, a team with one foot in the present and one eye firmly on the future as Audi prepares to step in and take over for 2026. On paper, Sauber was the worst performing team of the previous year, but internally, they were working on something more sustainable. Infrastructure upgrades, new technical leadership, and a clearer roadmap to the future. For Hulkenberg, it was a strategic move, a long-term play, and one that is already starting to pay off. 10 races into the 2025 season, and Nico Hulkenberg has already scored 20 points. That might not sound earth-shattering in the context of the top teams, but it's more than the entire team scored in the past 2 seasons combined. In a tight midfield where tenths matter more than ever, Hulkenberg's consistency and experience are exactly what Sauber needed. He's not just scoring points. He's leading development. He's mentoring. He's laying the foundation for Audi's arrival. At the Spanish Grand Prix, his performance turned heads again. 5th place, not inherited through retirements or weather chaos. No, this was a result earned on merit, including a memorable on-track overtake of Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari, the kind of move that not only gets noticed but remembered. It marked Hulkenberg's best result since the 2019 Italian Grand Prix and proved, once again, that he belongs at the highest level. When asked about how it feels to be back, Hulkenberg smiles. "Well, I came back in 2023 with Haas. It was like a new girlfriend," he said during a calm moment in Sauber's hospitality suite in Montreal. "I had a fresh love. I still feel in love. I like coming to the racetracks, doing all the travels, putting in the hours to work with the team and the factory before and after the events. There is nothing I'd rather be doing." At 37 years old, approaching 38, and now the 3rd oldest driver on the grid behind Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, Hulkenberg is racing with the joy and perspective of someone who knows time is limited, but also understands that the opportunity in front of him is rare, and he's grabbing it with both hands. Part of his current challenge comes from within the garage. His rookie teammate, Gabriel Bortoleto, comes from McLaren's junior program and has brought undeniable pace and professionalism to the table. Though Bortoleto is still chasing his first F1 points, his talent is obvious. Hulkenberg isn't just beating him, he's helping him. That mentorship role is new territory, but one that the German has embraced. He knows Bortoleto is not just the future of Sauber, but also a reflection of the environment they're trying to build. One of mutual growth, accountability, and ambition. And it's that ambition that ties directly into Audi's looming entry. Next season, Sauber will officially become the works Audi team, with a brand new power unit bill for the new era of F1 regulations in 2026. This isn't just a rebranding exercise. Audi is investing heavily, aiming to be competitive from day one. That's a tall order in a sport where experience, infrastructure, and culture often define the pecking order. Hulkenberg knows that. He's been around long enough to see big manufacturers enter the sport with grand plans, only to stumble. But he also sees this as his best chance to finally rewrite his F1 story. When asked about the transition, he admits that the outcome is hard to predict. The 2026 regulations represent a major reset for the sport, a true clean slate. And in theory, that gives every team an opportunity to leapfrog the existing pecking order. There's a big unknown ahead, Hulkenberg said. It's such a reset and a white piece of paper that everyone starts from. The big four teams have an advantage in terms of infrastructure, but it's a good opportunity. A fresh start. We need to work hard, stay focused, and hopefully we'll come out on the right side of it. There's something poetic about Hulkenberg putting his faith in Audi, a German manufacturer, to take him where no other team has. Over the years, he's driven for Williams, Force India, Sauber, Renault, Racing Point, Aston Martin, Haas, and now Sauber again. He's been the eternal journeyman, the guy everyone respects, but few commit to long-term. Yet now, with Audi, he's finally got that chance. A long-term deal, stability, a project he can grow with. It's a role he's earned the hard way, with patience, performance, and an attitude that's grounded but driven. The elusive podium still haunts the narrative. It's a statistic that's brought him a mix of sympathy and admiration. At 240 race weekends and counting, he holds the record for the most Grand Prix without a top 3 finish. But in 2025, that record feels less like a burden and more like unfinished business. Because now, for the first time in a long time, there's a roadmap that makes it feel possible. If Audi gets it right, if the new power unit is competitive, if the car suits his driving style, if the team environment clicks, then maybe, just maybe, the story changes. Maybe Hulkenberg finally stands on that podium and completes a journey that's been over a decade in the making. What makes this version of Hulkenberg so compelling isn't just the results. It's the attitude, the honesty, the quiet resilience of a man who's faced countless setbacks but never let go of his dream. He didn't force his way back into the sport. He earned his way back, and he's making it count. In a sport that often celebrates youth, boldness, and raw speed, there's something refreshing about a driver whose greatest asset is perspective. Nico Hulkenberg doesn't need to prove his worth anymore, but he's doing it anyway, for himself, for the team, and maybe for the first time, for something even bigger than either. So as we look ahead to 2026 and Audi's official arrival, keep an eye on Nico Hulkenberg, because while others may focus on the big names and the shiny headlines, sometimes the most meaningful stories in Formula One are the quiet ones, the ones built on persistence, on second chances, on belief. And if that long-awaited podium finally comes, it won't just be a victory for Hulkenberg. It'll be a victory for everyone who ever believed that perseverance still matters in modern F1. Hello, McLaren faithful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss any McLaren and F1 updates with relaxing ASMR elements. Your support helps this incredible community grow stronger every day, and it's a small effort that goes a long way. Even if you can't contribute in other ways, it's completely free to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to keep the conversation going and share our passion for McLaren and F1. Your support helps keep the community thriving. Thank you for being part of McLaren Faithful.